Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join us tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you have any questions, we'll have a presentation first. And after that presentation, of course, I'll answer as many questions as possible. And we're here at a trial of the Delphi matter. And absolutely, it a lot is going on. And part of what I've been waiting on, is, of course, is the crime scene discussion as far as the crime scene investigators and some of the things have been brought up. But before we get started too much into that, if you know anything about this case, absolutely make sure, even at this point, as the trial moves forward, that law enforcement or the prosecution or the defense has all the information needed to move forward. And if you have any information regarding this case, make sure they have it. There's a lot of things about crime scenes. And early on, when as it's been discussed and we saw through press conferences and interviews of certain investigators with the Indiana State Police, they talk about going to a crime scene and it being chaos. And of course, while there's going to be a lot of different testimonies that are going through the court system rather quickly, and this trial is moving from one part of it, from the discovery of the scene, responding officers, the search, to the crime scene, and now we're moving rather quickly, far quicker than I anticipated, which is amazing. And of course, I'm just going to be looking at a small part of it tonight. We're not going to be able to address all the days and issues as fast as this trial is moving forward, which absolutely is, like I said, it's breathtaking of who has all so far been questioned and how quickly will the prosecution get their side in, and when the final experts and the lab analysis and what's going on. And I'm looking forward to that. I anticipate there's going to be a lot of questions. And of course, with some of the looking at, and we have a kind of an issue with that the case is not being broadcast. And this is where we're facing that whatever articles you read, whatever news reporting you see, whatever YouTuber you go to, you're picking up their person that is they're gathering their information from. And so as I've looked at different articles and things, each of the reporters is given a version of things that stood out to them. So there's little snippets of this. Whereas if we had the ability to watch the crime being presented in court, we would each be able to draw certain conclusions, be better informed, be able to ask far more questions that would hold law enforcement to their task to make sure that they are absolutely, that they covered their bases, they did their job, the CSI did everything that necessary. And whereas right now we're just getting little snippets from each narrative from each reporter. And so we are limited in that. And that's one part of this trial, although I'm glad we're having a trial. And certain things will have to be answered, and regardless of the pace of this. But I'm looking forward to it, absolutely looking forward to it. And before I get too far into this, just want to make sure what's going on in chat. Say hello to a few people. There's a shadow expert. Good to see you. Um, and have been looking forward to your comments regarding the CSI in this case. Yes, this is a part of it. I wanted to see how the CSI address certain questions. And while we're limited in that we're getting it almost, you know, we're not getting firsthand. We're not there watching or hearing or listening on our TV of the coverage and seeing the live broadcast. So we're getting it secondhand through the reporting of each individual that reports it and what they feel is critical. And so I'm sure that in our questions tonight, we'll have different people asking questions from different areas as far as who they've watched and who they're listening to that's bringing up in certain points. And of course, I'll be critiquing what I see as far as what law enforcement. There's certain things that I've already seen, and I'm sure y'all are as disappointed with certain aspects of what was collected, what wasn't collected, and why, and the narrative giving of not collecting certain things, such as a stick or the testing of the hair that was in the hand. There's problems here, and I don't like to see problems whenever it's being presented in court because it leaves groundwork for the defense to bring up certain things that, well, if they did this, and this is all they did, that they will admit that, well, no, we didn't gather them because we'd never seen. That can have a huge impact upon a juror. What else did they miss because they'd never seen? And we'll get more to that when we get into it here in a minute. Hello, Marion Tate. Good to see you. There's Barbara Hall. Paula. Hello, Jill. Junior Johnson. Good to see you. And Molly says, hi, True Crime Web. I can't believe the trial is actually happening. I'm shocked. I haven't spoken to Ruckus yet to see what his feelings are, and as we move forward, but it is happening, and it's going fast. Absolutely. Although a lot of times, and you see, the prosecution gets to pick in what order they bring these witnesses in on this timeline to establish this story, so that the jurors get a feeling that they're watching that just like a well-written book, that you open that first page and you have the introduction of what this case is, and then the people that are involved, the family, the victims, and you start to understand these victims and what was going on. And then you see that something occurs and you start bringing in the law enforcement aspects of it, and you tell this story. And it is just a timeline of how this prosecutor wishes to tell their story, and what questions they ask. And of course, the defense gets to cross them through their questioning and gets to bring up a few points and hammer certain investigators. And may not always be these Perry Mason moments, but sometimes they can be Perry Mason moments, and you don't even really need those Perry Mason moments. You can have where you can start subtly putting some doubt in there that, yeah, these are the investigators that were there and what was happening and why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And of course, as we get to see the other side, we'll get a reversal of this. We'll get to see the narrative that the defense wants to bring into this. But I am glad it is happening. Hello, Anna Lizette. Good to see you. Daniel, good to see you. Piper's Dream says, hello, Steve. And this is Steve in chat. Is anyone else concerned about mistrial? Seems like there's a lot of inexperienced personnel in Indiana. The inexperienced personnel won't be so much for the mistrial because certain things have to occur. Someone during the testimony, a lot of things that can happen during testifying is if a witness states something or blurts something out, or certain procedures occur during the trial that can cause those mistrials. But you know, Is it always possible? Absolutely, because I've been there. I've seen something occur, and then instantly the defense will stand up, or the prosecution will stand up and ask for a bench hearing, or can I approach the bench? And they'll go up there and, of course, have a moment, and then the jury can be taken out of the room and secured in the jurors' um, quarters, and then they can address the issue of why it can or could not be a mistrial. I haven't seen or heard anything yet about or anything that's coming up or approaching the mistrial, but that can occur at any moment. Okay, Madison Stevens here. Rescue all the dogs. Good to see you. BGOG. D. Ashley. Gibbo. Good to see you. Oh, man. Thank you, James Tate. Good to see you tonight. Let's see this. If you have any questions, Molly says, true crime, it is moving very quickly. That's good. What do you think about there being no guys down the hill as part of Libby's video shown today? There must be more recording than the 43 seconds. Yes, for the fact that, and there has to be, because law enforcement put it out there, guys down the hill. Where did that second part come in? And, the girls mentioned that we have to go down the hill. Where will that come into play? When and how? I'm with you. There's some very confusing things that we've seen so far in this. And where did that come from? And how did that get established? And it may already be out there. I just hadn't seen the right article, or I haven't watched the right coverage yet. And I'm sure that hopefully there's some great YouTubers out there that's probably covering it, may already know about exactly when that will be brought into it. I just don't know. There's Polygraph. Good to see you. Marion says, thank you so much, True Crime Web Foundation, for all you do for other families, justice for all. Yes, I had some conversations with a couple of families today. Thank you. Steve, you are correct. Many different opinions. Yeah, and it's amazing that, and we see this all the time. I've been in interview rooms where I'm sitting there and there's a couple of investigators, myself and another, or we'll be watching an interview and there's 3 or 4 investigators sitting outside the room watching the cameras. And we're watching the same conversations or the same interview between bad guy and a investigator. And we'll be discussing it, and we pick up on different things. And that would be the same with the public at large, whoever's in the courtroom, and in the public, or even the news reporters. All right, let's get in here again. Hello, Cryptex. Good to see you. I think it's Cryptex. I thought I saw him in here somewhere. All righty. All right. There was some cover. They were talking about Indiana State Police when they arrived on the scene on the 14th around 1 p.m. and they worked till 11 p.m. that night, which is kind of interesting. It really is. We're only talking about basically 10 hours of a double homicide. Can you do it? Obviously you can. They did. And of course, that may be noted that, and one of the most horrendous crimes that many of these law enforcement officers ever seen or ever came across, they've spent this amount of time on it, although they came back later dates and things, and we don't know what all was done in the coming days. I don't know what all the reports or everything that was brought, but just this one part of it that we were there 10 hours? Did they secure the scene for many, many days? I don't know. But they were tasked to photograph the crime scene as found. Absolutely 100% correct. Not only photograph it, video it, 3D imaging, whatever technologies were available to the Indiana State Police or the FBI or any of the agencies, because law enforcement comes together, it's total chaos beginning, but everybody, I never once had to ask more than once that, hey, can we get some type of equipment or call in another, call in the crime lab or whatever, and, or get an opinion. You do that and people show up, because this is what it is. At the end of the day, it all depends that we have justice for these victims. And that the CSI guys, ISP, or how you want to address these people, that they were there to potentially remove significant items, not only the victims, but to secure everything that would potentially identify the offender. Who is the one responsible for this? And, you bag and tag everything, including the victims. And you collect as much items there. You document as much as you can there at the scene. And did they? Some of the things were, and we get to a question that was asked by a juror that was pretty awesome question. And we'll get to it later. But the CSI guy or the ISP guy had to say, from my memory, he had to state from his memory versus showing them an image. And that's not good. There's a lot of things I have about this that I'm not really happy with. But now I'm Monday morning quarterbacking. I'm looking at it from my standpoint. Did I mess up things at crime scenes? Are there certain things that I could have done better? Absolutely. Did I miss things? I'm sure I did. Did I know about it? No. Did I always try to do the best that I could at the moment? Absolutely. And these guys did too. And in hindsight, you look at it and it's ever how that jury likes them and understands and the faith that they put in it. Because as you testify to this jury and you're there tasked with a certain job that you have to process that scene, you have to be sincere. That jury has to like and understand that you had one job to do there, and that's to collect every bit of evidence that you believe was there, process it correctly, secure it correctly, and make sure that people that are in higher pay grades than you can look at that, analyze it, find the suspect, find the DNA, find whatever is needed. And and was that the case done? We'll find out as we move forward when we get to see some of the lab techs and some of the other testing that was conducted. Do I think that there were going to be some loop or some holes in the processing? It appears so. Not real happy with that right now, but that may all get covered in the future. But right now, I'm not real happy. Of course, the bodies of each of the victims was secured as best as they could and taken for an autopsy for those, for the experts that's in the forensics to be able to come up with certain conclusions. And we'll be seeing those conclusions at some point in this timeline presented by the prosecutor. But some of the ISP officers, as far as the crime scene, of course, or Olehi, I may be butchering that, Page and Dotsman, that they were working the crime scene and they took hundreds of photographs. That's an understatement. Hundreds. There's going to be hundreds of photographs. Absolutely. From you'll have your close-ups, your item identifications, your medium range, your overall range. And remember that there's a process of how you take those photographs, that you start out on the outermost ring of the crime scene and you work your way around 360 and you come in, it's almost like a grid, circular grid pattern spiral as you get closer to that crime scene, as you take those photographs and you approach it. What order was these photographs given and seen and articulated and testified to? Really don't know, but And this is part of course, a lot of these crime scene images, of course, would have never made it on TV if it was even being covered. But some of them would be. And then, of course, we have, I'm probably butchering his name, Datsman, speaking about a couple of the things that they, one item that they seized and some items they didn't seize. And that's what this whole slide here is about. This has a absolutely good crime scene processing that went on. And then it has a bit that is absolutely not what I would consider proper. And of course, who am I to speak of it? Well, I have some background in, a large part of my career was spent working crime scenes. And I will be pretty harsh on part of this. And everybody just has to bear with it. But it was great that he kept seeing a glitter in the leaves not far from the victims. Underneath those leaves, he found a .40 caliber cartridge. Absolutely excellent work. Whatever it was glinting with the sun or whenever he was there, and he saw that, and that he went over there and was able to find it without anything other than the visual of what, and that's the first thing that the first processing of a crime scene is totally visual. Even while you're going around taking those photographs, everything is so visual that you're working through the crime scene. How am I going to approach the victim? Is there a better angle over here as you take those photographs, and you're analyzing and weighing the options of which is the best way, which way that would not interfere with how the offender or where the offender moved at, because you don't want to move into a crime scene on the same path that the offender did, so that you are not disrupting possibly some evidence that would be either transfers or some type of evidence, and you come up and you destroy part of it. So even while you're photographing and you're getting all the views of it, there's things going on mentally as far as the processing of that crime scene. But at some point, as he was processing this scene, he saw that glitter. He saw the reflection of that bullet. So that, whatever that glitter is, either it was a highly polished brass shell or it was a nickel. And I would tend to believe, I don't know which one it was, nickel or otherwise, but it was enough that it had glitter on it, or sunlight was reflecting off of it. And he took notice. And of course, he went and photographed it. And is there a big deal that he didn't get the entire cartridge found and only the head stamp? As long as he got his medium and straight on to it, and his close-up shots and collected it, it's not a real big deal to me, guys. I mean, just seeing it in the first place is huge. Kudos to him. But now where we get to the part that we have where this offender, and that the victims didn't place those sticks on themselves. And what weight did these investigators at this moment in time, knowing that the sticks were placed there by the offender after death, knowing that the offender had to go out, gather these limbs from that environment, and had to walk in certain areas and had to touch them limbs and place them, that we chose not to collect them. We just visually inspected them. And if you remember, on my limbs that I tested, that while you can't always see, it depends on the bark pattern and the colorations and how diluted any blood transfer may be from your hand to a limb. Sometimes you may not see it, but when you hit it with chemicals such as luminol, and if you'll go back and look at that video, you'll be able to look at it and say, oh yes, this is where, even looking at the limb naturally, you'll see that there's a fulcrum point, a balance point of where you can pick that limb up to handle it. and where would that offender have handled that limb, and to place it in certain orders, and on those victims. And can you, just because that you state that in all of our experience, we've never gotten any DNA off such a surface as this. We didn't believe they were of evidentiary value. Doesn't matter about in your experience, because if you don't collect it, it's never going to be in your experience that you got it. You have to collect it, because you're looking at 1 in a million shot. You don't get that chance if you leave it at the crime scene. And for this, I give them no credit. And this will most certainly be brought up and hammered on by the defense as we move forward, and even in closing, that, it shows you their limited experience or their limited ability, or even the thoughts of, hey, we got 1 in a million chance. Let's take it. Let's look at it. Let's try to process it. For that, I'm critical of them. And of course, I hate it for that part of it. All right. But Page described the area that had been roped off as roughly the size of a football field. And that's a pretty large area, of course. And like I said, the photography was started out there from outside that football field. And it'd be like looking at the football or 2 footballs in the middle of this field. And you would go around and you would continuously get your overall photographs, come on in to 50 yards out, 25 yards out, 10 yards out, 5 yards, or whatever. You can spend as much images, because you only get one shot at this as you process it. And clicking a shutter is easy and cheap, and running a camera, whatever type of camera platform you got, doesn't matter if it's digital or even the old VHS that we started with back in the day, or cassettes. And it's just a matter of, and now we have the other technologies, the 3D imaging and things like that can be brought to the scene that would absolutely show everything about this. All right, let me get back into chat before we get too far away from this. The amount of lying by the defense dead is appalling. Yeah, but like I said, the prosecution and the investigators didn't assist in any in some of this that they should have. Gina, the trial is moving faster than a snowman melting in April. I will agree. All right. Gay Ames says, I've listened to 4 different people give their stories from sitting in court, and they have me confused. That's what I'm saying. Different stuff. And then we have this from Anna, a quote from Ruckus. Ruckus had one job, or RA had one job, to STFU, and he didn't. That's right. And that may be the saving grace of this, of what some of the less than spectacular, what I was hoping was coming forth in the crime scene part of it. Don't know. I mean, we're not seeing it. We don't know. It could be hundreds of. I wish I was there. I wish I was there during the CSI part of it, but unfortunately, I'm not. Oh man. Piper's Dream. Absolutely. Any questions, I'll try to answer best of my ability. Yes. Justice for Abby and Libby, justice for Timmy D, justice for the Florida 4. Absolutely. Thank you, Mustang. Purple haze. That's all right. Thank you. Judy says, I thought the down the hill was under some kind of restriction to see if it can be allowed in or not. I don't know. And that may be the case, but I know that it was spoken of in the article that I read. It was only about the girls saying, this is the end of the trail, basically, and we got to go down the hill here. But we have it where there's an individual that says down the hill. How did that occur? Hello, Joey. Good to see you. Oh, Witchcraft, got to go pick up the grandson. Excellent. Since they say, I'm so frustrated they're not streaming. It's got to be so hard to pay attention and take notes on everything and hold your emotion in that courtroom while needing to drink and bathroom. Absolutely. Clever alt name. That's a great name. So glad to see you live, sir. Needed to hear a sane, mature perspective on today's trials happening. Appreciate you. Yes, I'm running behind on each day, but I wanted to get in here and talk a little bit about some of the evidence. And, while the size of a football field isn't huge, and he's only talking about the area that had been secured and taped off, because the crime scene is far greater, in my opinion, of a football field. You still have to have once the abduction point is identified, what's there, what's between the abduction site and what's between where the victims were found. What occurred in those areas? What evidence could possibly be there? We already know that at the crime scene, we have a major piece of evidence that links the offender to the victims, being that bullet. And where did that come from? Are there other items possibly between those areas? But we don't know right now. Miranda Lee, good to see you. Miranda says, hello, Mr. Steve. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you. And thanks for all you do. Absolutely. Thank you for what y'all do. It's too bad the video clip wasn't able to play on day one. Definitely needs played. Absolutely. And does anyone know if they said why the bodies were sent to Terre Haute, or how you pronounce it, of all places for autopsy? I don't know if that's where the senior examiner or whoever was available, or if that was the closest facility. I have no idea about how Indiana set up. Dwayne's prospecting. Dwayne says, I'm late. Can anyone catch me up real fast? No, I'm glad you're here. No, you're not too late. If you have any questions, Dwayne, about any specific, just throw them out there. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Joey says, question, Steve, why are they acting like the bullet they found was on the day they found the bodies? Well, from my understanding and their description, from what I've seen, it was found on the day they found the bodies. Now, if I'm misreading that, link me the article, whereas it's not, because from the way I read it, is that while he was there processing the scene, he saw the bullet between the bodies glittering. So that's the way I've read it. Now, I may be absolutely wrong, but y'all correct me if I'm not, or if I am. And no, you're not halfway ignorant. Sharon says that the closest pathologist is in Terre Haute, Indiana, and says, I live in Indiana, have worked in Terre Haute. And I may be butchering that name. Question: why are they still using bloody, when Chief Liggett was caught writing bloody when the witness said wet? That will be addressed, I'm sure, at some point, and I don't know. Uh, um, um, and Muddy and bloody, most reference now, and that's one of the things about the images I have. There does, and the images I have, and like I said, I always qualify those images as I don't know what generation they are. I don't know what they, um, if they're consistent with what is being showed in court. But I've always thought that the images I had showed some clothing with mud on them, and but that this is the first time I've spoke of it before the fact that now it's being discussed. Um, and but that's just in the image that I have. And like I said, I don't know if photoshopping occurred, don't know what generation it is, don't know how accurate it is, because the images that are in the courtroom are the images that the CSI guys took. And so could they have, and that's why I've never discussed these images of what I've saw in those images. On the jeans and images I've seen, it appears that there is mud on those clothing. Shoes are clean, but there's mud on those jeans, unless it's a severe trick of lighting. But there is some discoloration on the jeans of what I've seen. Hello, Melissa Wildcard. Cryptex says, Steve, is it a good practice to use a metal detector since day one in that type of crime scene, full of leaves, sticks, twigs, etc.? Absolutely, especially if you found one round, and or even if you didn't find one, because you're in such a debris littered crime scene. And if you go out there, you'll see that in some crime scenes, processing outdoor crime scenes, that by the time it is processed, that you'll have all ground litter pulled back, that they'll rake through it, they'll filter through it, and that you'll get down to the bare earth in the processing. And there are certain procedures for that, but I've seen some images of some of the outdoor crime scene processing of whereas all the ground debris is gone, there's no litter on the ground, and you're looking at bare earth by the time everything is processed. And then you can still always use a metal detector. I don't understand the description of rough and crumbly. They are sticks. They look like sticks. They pile up like sticks. Is the bark crumbly? If so, so what? Exactly. It doesn't matter what that surface is, that texture. That texture can hold skin cells. And if you have something that is uh, 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 rough and crumbly, you handle it. You're working within the scientific world and your scientific training, and you know how to secure that we have something that certain things may fall off of this limb, but there's ways of processing it, securing it. Go get one of those sterile sheets, put it down, or some type of a sterile bag, or whatever, how you're going to bag and process it. Lay it down there, secure everything the best you can, and then ship it off. I mean, if so, that's right. There's no excuse for not collecting them and processing them. Hello, Mitzi Scott. Let's see here. Just trying to get caught up in the as we move forward. Mr. Steve, has there been anything surprising in the prosecution's defense of the case of that is in their favor? This is so far, I have seen nothing surprising that I've seen reported on. At some point, as we move through, we may see something that leaps out. But right now, I haven't seen anything. Now, somebody may bring it to my attention or make me look at something in a different perspective in the next 30 seconds, and I can change and address that. But right now, I haven't really seen anything that, other than, well, I guess the most surprising thing is that the investigator said that in their experience, they'd never collected. And there's a lot of room of play. That's probably the most shocking, surprising thing to me right now, because I can see how someone, as the defense in the future, will say, yes, look at this in their experience. What did they do? They didn't process this. They didn't process that. So that's probably the most shocking thing to me right now. Yes, Cryptex, you're absolutely correct. You can have mixtures of, just because you may or may not see any type of blood transfers on those sticks, just like with the sticks I processed. I just collected those sticks at random, picked them up with in certain areas with my synthetic blood, and even washed my gloves in water, trying to get the like you would in a creek, and still picked up a stick, and it was just as luminescent and reactive, even when I washed my gloves, because blood is, with certain reactive reagents and stuff, it will absolutely light up the world. And if you look at that test, you'll see that. They did say the sticks didn't have cut marks. All right. Yeah, I just hadn't seen that one yet. CJK says, Alan confessed to using sticks to hide the bodies and then stopped. 3-day hearing info. Okay. So that may be what they're using. Piper's Dream. We wish you were there too. Thank you. I wish I was. So where's the coffee? I've had several cups in there right now. Tonight, this here is just water. My coffee is in there. I've been, I think I about coffeeed out. I've drunk so much coffee and once I got home. Gail says, True Crime Web, can RA change his plea anytime during the trial? They could at any moment address the court and ask the judge for something. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. My hub is colorblind, so his perception of color is wrong. I'm guilty of that also. Never knew I had red-green deficiency until Mrs. Steve was being tested one time. And of course, I had to address that issue as far as crime scene stuff, and the rest of my team who was not red-green deficient. While I can see colors, I have to extremely force gump it and just totally focus on something until it pops out at me. I can easily look over anything red on any type of background unless I totally focus, and it takes quite a while. But and then sometimes I can't even see it then. I can only see variations of a color spectrum. There's Frank Master. Good to see you. Mr. Steve, do you think there is a way around these confessions from RA for the defense? No. They're going to get in there. And it just depends on what the narrative and how the prosecution presents it, and how those jurors perceive it from the prosecution standpoint and versus the defense standpoint. Will the defense have a good enough presentation to sell their side of it? Who knows? And it's sad that we have to allow our court systems to be, sometimes it's about who is the best presenter, who tells the best narrative, who is the Mark Twain in the crowd, and how can they spin it. And but it does occur. Angela, is voice analysis a real thing? We'll see if it is in this case. Could they make Richard Allen say, guys down the hill? That would be if he took the stand. And even if he did, would he do it in the same voice? Or, how easy it for us to change our pitch as we say something? Even in the O.J. Simpson trial, when they asked him to put on those gloves, how would it be to just stiff finger those gloves, as a lot of people have claimed? The juror asked this question here, and this is another thing that I really have fought with the CSI guys. Juror asked a question of whether the undergrowth on the ground where Abby was lying appeared to have been disturbed, suggesting she was dressed there. There should have been some disturbance as far as you have the pressing of the leaves, the body weight on there. You'll have some types of transfers depending on injuries. You may even have transfer. Are the clothes wet? Are those leaves underneath wet? What is going on underneath that victim? And is there any settling, broken sticks? And we're having to go back on memory from my best recall of the investigator is, no, I don't think so, or whatever it was stated or how he stated it. Whereas when the victim was removed, what was the process, and should photographs have been taken of the area once the victims are removed? Absolutely. And you continue processing all the way down to the bare earth, because what fell out of their pockets? What happened underneath? Are there indications of where a weapon was stuck into the ground, such as a knife? Or is there a knife down there? Or is there a broken knife blade? What processes were done even after the victims were removed from the scene? I don't know. But from, we have to speculate right now of, and maybe it will be explained, of absolutely everything that was done at that crime scene. I just don't know about. And that's part of the thing that we're getting this second and third generation. We don't really know. Angela says it was the best forensic pathologist in the state at the time. Must have been at Terry Hall. Hello, Kimberly. Good to see you tonight. Steve, no, they said they released the scene, then went back 2 days later, and that is when they found the bullet. I haven't seen that in the article or being reported yet. I just, from the one I read, it read as if it was the same day. So if that's what they said, that they went back 2 days later and found the bullet, then they're going to catch heck for that too. But in the articles I read, it read as if it was a simple timeline. And so if that's the case, that they went back 2 days later, bad. That's another, issue. And you see, we even having questions about here to here of when the bullet was found, and clarifications of different people reporting different things. That yesterday's testimony described finding around. The scene was processed with a light source before victims were removed. The round was found at that time, nose down in the leaves, versus what Joey's saying. They released the scene and went back 2 days later, and that's when they found the bullet. So between these two discrepancies, the one I read was as if they found it day of. How far away from the creek were the bodies found? My understanding initially was it's 50 to 75 feet up the embankment away from it. And the location where it was shown to me was about that proximity. And of course, I don't know the jury. Hello, Amy. Yeah, Anna, it doesn't seem like they did take the scene down to the bare earth. That's very kind of you to say, but that doesn't mean that's the case. But thank you in your confidence. Molly says, True Crime Web, Ellie on stand described Abby's clothes as being damp up to bottom of t-shirt. And that's possible. The clothing I looked at appeared to be dark, but I'm looking at from the image and what lighting. And like I said, I don't know what generation I got or if there's any editing as far as there's a lot of things you can do any type of digital image. And so that's how come I'm so careful with them when I look at an image. And I look at a lot of images. Yes, Sarah. Richard Allen did admit being in the area. Absolutely. Joey is saying that the lawyers and Court TV also said the bullet was found days later after they had cleared the scene. Now, are you talking about what was reported previously or what's being reported now? I don't know which. I would think rough and crumbly would be more likely to grab hair fibers off of the assailant, maybe. Yes, off of anything, because we all know the rougher the surface, the more likely, if when you handle something, and the rougher it is, the more likely it can take skin cells or cut you or otherwise. Marion said, just want to know, Mr. Steve, do you use vodka to make the blood or what do you use? I purchase it through a supplier that makes it. And it is a synthetic blood that I use. And it comes packaged, sealed, and it has all the reactive components, just like what, as far as iron and stuff that blood would have. And there's a couple of different types of some of the synthetic bloods you can get. Some of it you can get that will simulate the actual cast off effects of how blood does react under different energies and forces applied. Then you also have the ones that will react as blood will to certain chemical agents. And Mark says that the bullet was found as a process is seen under UV lights. That's when the one tech saw the flicker off the primer cap. Okay, so it's explained here once again as during the processing of versus 2 day later. And that's the way I read it, that as they were processing it is when they found the bullet. And hats off to them, if that's the way it occurred. Melissa says, good question on live last night for you, Mr. Steve, but forgot what it was now. I'm the same way. I may have read it and forgot it. And like I said, that's the way I read it. Of course, he has a different perspective. He may actually be looking at the old news articles and going from what was proclaimed back then, which doesn't appear to be the case now that we've had the actual investigator who found the bullet say how it was found. Because when I read that, I took it as, well, this clears up the issue. Yes, Sensei says, I'm desperate to hear more on the investigation of how they honed in on Richard Allen from nothing for years to pouncing on him. Absolutely. That will be a huge point. And Joey has a wonderful point here. If it was filed into the lab on the 15th, meaning it was found on the 14th. So, Joey, you're just reading or seeing articles that are older and are different. And this is a big point about two of the ISP investigators advised they didn't carry the weapons into the woods with them. And Page, one of the other or the third ISP investigator, he carried a 9mm, which of course isn't the 40 caliber. And this being the case, they're CSIs. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, there were times that I may not have, or during the dressing to go into a crime scene, that I might have disarmed myself. But most of the times I stayed armed, especially if we didn't know who the offender was. In my opinion, at the beginning of every trial, the defendant should have to state their full name for all to hear. That's a good point. Alabama Sin says, wow, 18 months since I found the best crime show on YouTube. Thank you. And there's your blue light. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think that it was the day of, like I said, that's the way I read it. But like I said, people, and that's something that even with people looking or listening and whoever's supplying the information, that they come up with a different opinion even on this. Joey, I don't know what to tell you. If it was filed on, if there's testimony and court filings of it being put into the record on the 15th, then it had to be secured by at least the 14th. That's not 2 or 3 days later. They went back for the sticks 1 or 2 days later, but the crime scene was still taped off. And now here, Dotsman denied it was a mistake not to take the sticks into evidence, but conceded that he returned on March the 3rd, over 2 weeks later, to collect the same items at the crime scene on the orders of a higher up Indiana State Police. He used photos taken from the day of February 14th to ensure he collected the right sticks. So if this is correct reporting, then of course they went back 2 weeks later. Yeah, I think, thank you, Mark and Jeanne or Jeannie, or Jean Barker. Hello, Karen Langston. Good to see you. Hello, Kristen behind the crime door. Good to see you. Oh, look here. Alabama Sin, $18. Happy Webiversary. Thank you for your support. Kristen, thank you. Sending you lots of love, Steve. So much respect for all the work you're doing. Yeah, I finally got home. I'm down in Florida now. Been a long I don't even know how long I was on the road this time. Yes, and this is, Mark, you're absolutely correct. Not having the court proceedings recorded and broadcast is a huge handicap. It is. I have to weed through dozens of sources to get the full picture from each day. And even that, like I said, as I go through this stuff and still have to do my other work, I've been working with cold case families. I've had 2 or 3 phone calls today, speaking with them, and played phone tag with 1 or 2 of them. And yeah, it's a huge handicap trying to catch up with everything. Blackwood, been a member for 12 months. Thank you for your support, Blackwood. My understanding is the bullet was found the next day, 14th. My understanding, that's the day they're processing. If they left at 11 p.m. that night, then the bullet had to be processed before 11 p.m. on the 14th. That's my understanding, or the way I read it. Jerry Johnson, how do I find out how long I've been a member? I don't know. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. I'll have to ask Mrs. Steve. CJK said there was a chain of custody on the casing, and you would be correct. Anything that was taken from that crime scene, there's going to be a chain of custody on it. There's a timeline for everything, and nothing is moved unless it gets put onto that evidence sheet and the timeline starts, and there's documentation. You just don't pick up something, throw it in a paper bag, and then proceed. Everything from photographs to the collection process, all that is documented. There's nothing that is taken unless there's a chain of custody on it. Mark says that the prosecution is smart by going in chronological order to detail how the crime scene was discovered and processed. Absolutely. there's a lot of different ways of presenting certain things, and then they can readdress with different witnesses certain key points. And their main handicap seems to be the ISP investigators. They found the bullet. I'm proud for them for that. But there were some other things that are just lacking on just a little bit. Junior Johnson has been a member for 17 months. Thank you. And Josh Posh has been a member for 23 months. Thank you. Does Ruckus have a red light? I don't know. He needs one. I phoned a friend. Yes, it was said that none of the sticks that the investigators saw had a man-made cut on them. Yeah, I saw a stick that is in images, once again, that appeared to have to be cut. But like I said, I just don't know. Like I said, anytime you look at an image, the things I can do in Photoshop would scare you. And Love to Hunt has a good point. Just because Ellie carries a weapon in doesn't mean it was ever unholstered and a live round was ejected. Absolutely. CJK has been a member for 22 months. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was thinking now that with him saying that. And I was starting to get that impression that he was probably looking at older reporting. Two weeks later, unacceptable. I can't argue with you, Cryptex. I can't argue with you. And Josh Aposh says, Steve, collecting them 2 weeks later after they've been in elements would greatly diminish the evidential value, correct? Yeah, I would have to agree. Anytime you got everything from UV light of the sun rays to what happens in the outdoors. You got, at the very least, dew, ice, that time of year. You can have rain, snow, temperature changes. While DNA has been around for, it makes up everything that is known in existence. Some types of DNA are there, but it doesn't mean that they will survive. Human DNA can survive on those surfaces for long periods. And so they need to be protected and secured as soon as possible. That's very kind of you, Junior. I couldn't think of a better channel to be a member of, and thank you, because like I said, y'all's membership allows us to do a lot of things. Mark says, it's frustrating they didn't collect the sticks immediately. I'm not impressed with ISP CSI crew so far. Way too casual, even though they're in court frequently. They seem to be a liability. Yeah, the statement that in their career they never collected. There's always a first time for everything. And so why would you, and if you don't collect something just because you never was successful, you'll never be successful. And so I don't give them any points for that. Sensei says, well, I might as well do mine too. Woo-hoo. Member for 22 months. Thank you. Yes, Molly. I've been in the last, let's see, I think on this trip here, I just well over 5,000 miles. SB 74. Says, Cryptex, the 14th is the day the bodies were found per testimony. The cartridge was collected while the bodies were still there. That's my understanding. Gil Hurd has been a member for 14 months. Might as well join in. Absolutely. Thank you. And our members are on Sundays and Wednesdays that we have that I go in and talk to our members. We had a wonderful discussion Sunday, um, and we talked a lot about the Delphi case on Sunday. The CSI guy said he had processed over 1,000 crime scenes. Well, I'm not impressed with him not taking sticks, nor having the crime scene secured until they were sure they were finished with the scene. Yes, 1,000 crime scenes is not really that much. Even, I don't, I'm trying to think, how many crime scenes have I went to, and it depends on how you define what a crime scene is, because that can be anything from a simple theft, is a crime scene. And so with that being said, if he's including those, that's really not that big of a number, 1,000 crime scenes. You could do that. There were times that sometime during my busy weeks, I may be, at 10 to 20, 25 crime scenes in a week, a lot of them minor. But as far as the deaths investigations, I think he had been over to 100. And so, I don't know if it's 100 homicides or 100 death investigations, because all deaths have to be looked at, because it's hard to tell, even from natural to self-inflicted to a homicide and other ways that people pass. Steve Kinsella just joined. Does Steve have an opinion on the case? I do. And this is just my opinion from my law enforcement of, they have probable cause to arrest, a probable cause to pursue and justice, and they've charged him. But just because what my opinion of is he guilty or innocent has absolutely no bearing on this case. And for the fact he is considered innocent until proven guilty by that, but each of us can draw our own conclusions, have our own opinions, and it's hard to get over that individual that puts himself on the bridge the day of, that denies seeing the girls when a witness puts him there within a minute or two of meeting the victims, and then a bullet found from his firearm, if that is correct, found at the crime scene. But even if the bullet wasn't found at the crime scene, that you have this other witness that says she saw an individual on a platform who says that he was on a platform there after meeting the three girls on the trail. Everything the man stated puts him in a position of where the girls would have to go by him, and he denies seeing them. And when people start denying things, there's a reason for it. Let's see here. Yeah, taking side. Yeah, I agree more with the prosecution and on the state theory versus. Well, I don't know what the state theory is yet. I haven't. I don't know what all was said in the opening, but implying that Richard Allen is a lone wolf, I tend to agree with that. Doesn't mean I'm right. He definitely is not a supporter of the defense theory. No, when they went into the Odinists or whoever you want to say they are, no, that was quite entertaining. And thank you, Sensei. You're absolutely correct. I am, and we need both sides. We need those that absolutely proclaim that Richard Allen is innocent, as those who proclaim that he is guilty, because that ensures that everyone's going to be fighting and making sure all the information is out there. Guilty, guilty. Oh. Crime scene, stolen car, burglary, vandalism, assault, homicide. LAPD does 1,000 crime scenes a month. Absolutely. Probably more than 1,000 a month, because every call can be a crime scene, even if it's domestic issues. So I don't know. I came late to the live. Did we talk about the 43-second video? Yeah, we discussed it, that there's some lacking of certain key words in there right now. I can't wait to see what that is. Just wait and see what was found when Ellie searched Richard Allen's property that the defense is trying so hard to keep out. I'm with you. When would that be brought in? It's moving quick. That's got to come up pretty quickly. Thanks, Steve, for a thorough answer. Good point about statements of denial and lots of facts of being red flags. I don't have an opinion yet. Case seems even more complex than many others. Every case is complex. And, doesn't mean that any one person is right. Mark, what we've learned is the girls crossed the creek. Their bodies weren't moved. At some point, the victims were undressed. Abby was redressed or allowed to redress in Libby's clothes. I would agree. All righty, guys. Let's see. And Sergeant Page said he's not aware of any DNA evidence tying Allen to the crime scene, which is, do I think DNA is on? If Richard Allen is involved, do I believe DNA is somewhere at that crime scene? Absolutely. It just was not discovered. But I've been there where, in conditions that, of looking for DNA, you can't see it. And even working with limited, even on an airbag, imagine in your vehicle on an airbag that was deployed that struck an offender. And it still took multiple times of sending that airbag to the crime scene to get that spot of DNA finally located. It's not that easy. And if you're out there in an outdoor scene and you got clothing, is there transfer somewhere? I believe it is. Will they find it eventually? I believe they will if they look for it. But just hasn't been found yet. True Crime Web. You do not hear BG talk in the video and can barely see him, just the girls talking and joking. Abby says when she gets to the end, there's no path down. The reporting I saw that we have to go down here. Like I said, different things are being reported as far as, and I hate it's not being broadcast. Josh DePosh says, $5. I received my TCW hoodie yesterday, Steve. Good. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Yes, SP-74. And that's the thing. If, Richard Allen puts himself there in that critical time period, from the way I've read his test, or not his testimony, but his interviews with law enforcement. I think Richard Allen's guilty, but we're so focused on DNA these days, I doubt he would be convicted. And you may be absolutely correct that we have put the standard that if there's not DNA, we don't convict. I hope we never get to that, because while eyewitnesses can be wrong and have been wrong in the past, we have more than just the eyewitness here. We have some forensics, and that bullet, and we have his own testimony that he was there and at a critical point, and having visited those trails and being able to walk on that trail and knowing that there was no foliage, and standing at that bridge, and this lady who saw the offender on the bridge on the first platform turning around, meeting the girls just midway at a very critical turn, that you can see a long ways down that trail. You can almost see other than that one bend, that if you stood at that one critical point that we've covered in previous shows, that you would be able to see across the bridge and also all the way up to the intersection where the Mears parking lot. Absolutely critical. Yeah, and that's where not having it broadcast, that we may not be able to, and they had to do certain enhancements. And the person reporting in the article didn't hear the enhanced part of it yet, and I'm sure that's going to be coming out. All righty, guys. I appreciate everybody being here, and y'all stay safe out there. And I'm looking forward to seeing more testimony. And I'll be back just as soon as we have something to discuss the next day or two. And I'm looking forward to it. And everybody keeps the families and in your thoughts and prayers. And absolutely appreciate everything everybody does for this channel. Our neighbor says, let me see if I can get it up here. Appreciate your expertise. $9.99. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your support. Thank you, T. Kinsella. All right, guys. Like I say, good night, everybody. Appreciate y'all being here. And y'all take care. And here's a blue light for all our support and all our members and everything. But I look forward to getting back with y'all. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon, guys.